Welcome to this episode of Ask Earl Anything. This is the show where your questions make the show. If I don't have questions, I don't have a show. And I have a lot of questions since my last show in April. A couple things before we get started. Last month, during the month of April, I participated in a blindfold challenge where I played drums with a blindfold on. Now, I want to parlay this challenge by a drummer named Mike Few. Really nice guy. He decided to start this whole concept in the drum community. And to be honest, I don't follow the drum community as much as some of you may think, only because I'm like way too busy. My life has gotten absolutely crazy this year. And I was kind of hinting to it at the beginning of the year, but with, let's just say with all the grief that's happened with 2 funerals and a lot of other things going on in life, this has been April was a really tough month, and May has started really tough. So all I can say to you all is I'm going to keep trying to do my best to keep putting out covers and stuff. But during the month of April, I realized a few things, and people are not watching drum covers anymore. Everybody's watching their Instagram feed or TikTok or anything that's quick and fast and takes a couple seconds. And I see so many new drummers in the drummer community coming in, making drum covers, putting their heart and soul into it. And nobody's watching for longer than 2 minutes or 1 minute or 30 seconds. So it's really rare that you get somebody to watch a whole video. I know that. And what am I doing? I'm picking songs that are 8 minutes long to play during this month. Like playing the Boston Foreplay Long, It's Been Such a Long Time song. I mean, how can I expect any of you to watch it for that long when majority of people can't stay on anything for 5 minutes? Like, I don't know how people watch Ask Earl Anything anymore, because this show is long, but I have some of you that are devoted followers, and you watch the show, you watch the whole show. But there was a day when YouTube started that YouTube was about long form, fun videos. And what got me into even having the nerve to do Ask Earl Anything was a guy named Terry Keating, Bonzolium. And Terry was doing some videos on Paiste cymbals that I would watch, and I'd sit there and watch him for a half hour, yak about Paiste cymbals. Bad camera production. It wasn't polished shows. Like, there's some really great polished drum shows content out there. There's a whole bunch of them that do like a great job of showing you how to do stuff and answer questions. But they're not this low budget long form video stuff that I do, or that Terry Keating used to do, and he does some of it still today. He's got way more of a following. He started way earlier than I did. But I think we're losing the YouTube community now. Now the YouTube community, we're losing the whole thing, because in actuality, nobody watches YouTube anymore. They go to Instagram, and I've actually backed off of Instagram. So I was shocked a month ago when I saw this blindfold challenge by Mike Few, and I didn't find out by watching Mike Few, because I didn't follow Mike Few until I saw one of my friends who I watch a lot, that I've been encouraging for years, Preach Rocks, put on a blindfold and start playing this cover. I don't even remember what song he played, and I'm like, wow, why is he doing that? I couldn't figure out why he did it. And then all of a sudden, I saw Rich Raw Dog. And Rich had a blindfold on, and it was within a couple hours of each other I saw these 2 videos. So I had just done this song, and I'm trying to remember the name of the song. The name of the song is Come and Get Your Love by Redbone. And I had actually done the video on Sunday. And it turned out pretty well, but it's 2 cameras and all cut and ready to go and loaded to YouTube. But this was like lunchtime on a Tuesday, and I saw these 2 videos, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to try this blindfold thing just for fun. And I found this. It was one of those things you pull over your mouth, during COVID. But if you folded it over, you couldn't see through it. So I brought that out and put it on my head. and put my hat on and had to take my glasses off, and it was hard to kind of not see and not start the recording. So what I basically did was I said, I'm going to do this song in one take, and I'm going to put a blindfold on. And I started the song, and I pulled the blindfold up, and I played the song, and I don't think I made any gaffes where I hit things wrong or the rims or anything. I just round the kit, did crazy fills, did stuff, had fun with it. At the end of it, I laughed. I got through this, clicked on it. It was one camera, brought it to my computer, married the video with the audio. It took me like literally 5 minutes to mix down and marry the video with the audio. And then I popped it up on YouTube just as a joke on a Tuesday, because I already released something on Tuesday that day. I don't even remember what I released. And I put it up on YouTube, and within 3 hours, I had like 500-600 views. By the next morning, I woke up, I had 1,900 views on it. And at this point in time, I've got 2,632 views. In 2 days, I had 2,400 views on a video. I haven't had anything like that since winning the Drum Cover of the Year contest with Bill and Drumman 190 back in 2018. It was January 1st, 2018, where I had a spike of almost 3,000 hits on a video. Other than that, my stuff doesn't get thrown in the feed. I'm getting as low numbers as anybody else. I've got 5,000 something subscribers. Doesn't mean people are watching my videos at all, but this crazy contest got it going. So the next week I thought, let me try another one. So I did another one. And that video right now is at about 553 hits. And I think it's because both of them ended up being hashtagged into the contest. And thank you, Mike Few, for playing those two videos in your compilation of crazy drummers that did Blindfold. And I think that was a nice way for some people to find me in the last month. I didn't pick up a lot of subs, but I pick up the same amount of subs almost every month, it seems like. You know, I have a steady around 100 subs I pick up a month. I've been doing that since 2018, January 1st, 2018. It's like 100. Actually, for a while there was almost a couple hundred, and then got hit 1,000, and then it kind of evened off to 100, 110, 115, 150. Every once in a while I have a low month, but for the most part I've been just chugging along for 5 years now. So what am I saying? Thank you, Mike Few, for doing a drum contest, the Blindfold. I had a lot of fun with it. I did 3 of them. The last one was the most fun. I did it on this kit, and I was going for stuff, and I had to hit the 6-inch tom, and I missed it, and I had a lot of fun with it. That one was Backstabbers, the OJs. But all of them I did one take. I didn't do anything which wasn't one take. And all that to say is, that's the kind of fun of the drum community I enjoy. But it's a shame that we're not getting watched. And why aren't we getting watched? Because YouTube is not about drum covers. And YouTube's not about the independent movie producers anymore. You know what it's about? YouTube's about selling television now, and they have subscriptions and lots of ads, and unless you pay for adless YouTube, it's kind of useless to try to do anything, because, you know, then there's us guys that are trying to get some ad revenue, you know, and I make about $300 a year on Google. That's for the last 4 years. Last 3 years for sure I made $300 a year. I think the first year I made almost 200. So, I mean, there's a few dollars to be made, but it's not, I mean, that's like going out to dinner in a nice restaurant. You know what I mean? It's really maybe 2 nights of dinner at a nice restaurant with your wife, you know? But I mean, come on, $300 is not going to feed my family, that's for sure. So $300 is $300. Maybe I buy a ride cymbal with that money. It gets taxed, you know, all that other good stuff. All that to say is, between my life the way it is, the craziness of my life, and the fact that YouTube is really not pushing videos, and I got a hit this past month on a video, it made me wonder, like, why do I do this? This is one of the questions I ask, and I really only do it for the people that like to watch my videos. So those of you that I'm disappointing, I'm not putting out every day anymore. I'm putting out like 4 or 5 times a week, you know, whatever. Thank you for watching my videos. Those of you that watch all the time, I am so thankful to all you guys, and I just want to thank you again for that. those of you that ask questions, thank you. I'm not announcing anything I'm going to do differently. I'm going to keep making drum covers. I may do some more talking videos. But I do this for fun. This is for fun. And, you know, that's it. I'm not trying to make a business out of it, to be honest. Even though I have done a few drum lessons for people and I've done a few recording sessions for people because people see me on YouTube. But that's not why I do this. I do this for fun. So when you're watching one of Earl's videos, just know I'm doing it for fun. If I don't play it exact, I don't care. I don't care to play things exact. I care to play things the way I hear it and what makes me feel good and comfortable. And I try to pay homage to the guys that played it originally. But you know what? I'm not going to play like the Boston drummer. I'm not going to apologize for playing too many ghost notes. I play too many ghost notes. That's my thing. You know what I mean? I'm not going to apologize that I played a different fill on this ballad that I heard the way I heard it. I'm not going to apologize for those things. Those are things I do. And those of you that watch me know that that's what I'm about. So I'm not going to apologize. This video is too long today. Because if I really cared about having lots of great content and keeping your eyes on my screen, I would break this video up into one a week. One Ask Earl Anything a week. This is the first 2 questions. This is the next 2 questions. And I would break it up. I'd be real decisional about it. Keep eyes on. I don't care. You guys show up, you watch the show, you get something out of it, great. By the way, this week I've got a bunch of questions from a friend who watches a lot of my videos. He's asked lots of questions before, and I've got questions from other people. So let's jump in and try to get to your questions today. But just know that I do this for fun. This is all about having fun. One other thing I want to say is if I don't watch all your videos or comment on your videos, just know that it's not that I don't care. Every once in a while I get a day where I have some time to do that, and I'll comment on some friends' videos. YouTube's not my life. This is just part of what I do. So I do this for me and for fun, and to stay connected to guys that enjoy what I do and people that enjoy what I do. So, all right. First question of a couple questions comes from Lori Jones, longtime subscriber. Been asking questions on Ask Earl Anything for a long time too. His first question is, how do you stop your bass drum from slipping forward? Now, I'm sitting at this kit. And the reason why I'm sitting at this kit is this kit was having some issues with slipping forward. I did a drum cover by Barry Manilow not too recently. Those of you probably don't think Barry Manilow is very hip. I understand that. But when I was a kid, I played this album. It was called Trying to Get the Feeling Again. And I did that song, Trying to Get the Feeling Again, I believe. But it had I Write the Songs, and it had a bunch of hits on it. And one of the songs was called New York City Rhythms. And it was kind of like Broadway show meets Santana in the song. And I did a cover of that. And the day I did the cover, I moved the big kit back into this room. By the way, I've done a little upgrade to this room too. Put the foam that I've had forever on the wall. The foam that I got from Kelly came in can drum. Thank you, Kelly. I put some of your foam up on the wall. It's the behind foam. This is the big foam. I've got it on the other walls. So I've got this place more foamed up a little bit. Plus I've got more covering up, to kind of green screen, black screen. I got a white screen. I should put the white screen up. Green screen hasn't been working real well lately. But I've got all this stuff up to make this kind of easier to shoot. I've got some interesting lighting set up too in here, backlighting and up backlighting and a front lighting, and took some tips from my friend Chris, Drummer's Key. He did a great video on that, so watch that. If you want to learn how to light your stuff, he had a great video on it. So I've tried to use that. This room really does it better than the big room. But anyhow, I'm not a great videographer. But let's jump in. So the reason I'm bringing this up is this bass drum's been flying around. Now, how do I keep it from moving? Normally, I put a drum on a good, nice rug. This bass drum is an old Gretsch bass drum with Ludwig hardware on it, with those long legs that stick out. I didn't put special legs on this, the newer legs that really are on my other drums. Even my 18-inch bass drum's got a set of Gibraltar pearl style bass drum legs. This still has the old telescopic spurs that really stink. So I was doing that cover, and this bass drum was flying all over the place. It was hard to get that cover done. I got one good take out of the bunch where I didn't have the bass drum in my legs. Once your legs get out of whack, it's kind of hard to play, you know, when you're out, the bass drum's out here and this one's out here. Anyhow, here's what I did on this drum. Because I have this rack, and I did this at a gig with the Swigs 5 years ago. I took this rack and I was playing on a plywood floor. I had my rug, but I was on plywood outside in the grass. Terrible way to set up. So the bass drum never felt right. So what I did was I brought an extra clamp for the front of this rack, and I used an L-arm, one of these L-arms, and I put the L-arm into the bass drum mount, which I have a Ludwig bass drum mount on here, and it fit, and I tightened it down on it, and it basically doesn't let this drum move anywhere. This drum is attached to the rack. I'm shaking the drum in the rack. You see the rack shaking. That's because it's attached. That's the way I'm dealing with this drum here. But usually a good rug will keep the drum from slipping. But there are, every once in a while, you need to try other things to keep it from slipping. Now, one of the things I'd avoid is taking a rope and tying it around your seat. I've done that, but it really messes up the tension rods on your bass drum. And I messed up a few of my original Gretsch bass drum rods. But I had some other Gretsch bass drum rods from another Gretsch bass drum. That's another story for another time. So anyhow, that's how I deal with it, Lori. That's number one. The next question, this comes from first name, last name, believe it or not. That's his name, first name, last name. He said, I have a 14 2002 Sound Edge hi-hats, 18 2002 crash, 18 2000 thin crash, 20-inch 2002 ride. Somehow the combination of Paiste cymbals that you have is just perfect. Did you demo these at a store or just collect Paiste over time and arrive at a particular set, trial and error? It amazes me how perfectly this particular set accommodates so many genres and styles. And this, believe it or not, was Moondance Van Morrison that came up as being not blocked anymore. So what I remember about that setup, I was using the 2002 Ride. I was using an 18-inch 2002 Crash. I'm not sure if I was using the 20 Giant Beat or the 16 2002 Thin Crash. And I'm pretty sure I had at this time for this, I had the 2000 Sound Edge bottom with the 505 bottom, medium bottom as the top cymbal. So did I buy these together? No. I bought every one of those cymbals in different ways. Actually, the 505s were my brother's at one point, and taking and putting the bottom cymbal on top of the top came from one of you guys watching me do a video about buying that Sound Edge bottom. And somebody said, I like the sound of the bottom on top of the bottom. So I did that. Now, this particular set of hats right now is the 2000 Sound Reflector top, Sound Edge Sound Reflector top, over the regular 2000 Sound Edge bottom. These got a nice sound too, but I've used them different ways. Actually, this is not that. I lied. This is actually the 505 top with the 2002 Reflector Sound Edge top on top. I haven't done a drum cover here. I actually moved the bottom cymbal over there for some covers today, so sorry about that. But bottom line is, how did I buy those cymbals? I bought them all online, and I didn't play any of them. Actually, all my Paiste cymbals, for the most part, I have bought online without hearing them in a room. Those are the only cymbals you can do that. I've never had a lot of success at doing that with Zildjians, even though I did buy my Avidus 22-inch Ride that way. Most of my Zildjians I've played in a room with some other cymbals and tried to see if it was my thing or not. My Sabian's the same thing. But my Paistes, not so much. The big beat I bought, 22-inch big beat, I bought from a drum shop in Massachusetts. This 2002 22-inch Ride came from some audio store that did a terrible job packing it one day. This 18-inch Crash I bought from another shop that all these things are on great prices. I found great prices and bought them. So if you like my cymbals, You like the 22-inch ride? Pick one up. 22-inch 2002 ride sounds like a 22-inch 2002 ride. There's very little difference from ride to ride. There's some, but there's very little. And I've been lucky that they've all landed and they all work. My Giant Beat's the same thing. I bought the 18 thin and the 20 multi. Just bought them online. Bought the Giant Beat hi-hats online, 15-inch. So I just been lucky on it. That's all I can tell you. But Paistes, you can do that. I don't recommend it with Zildjians. Zildjians are getting a little more consistent, but not as consistent as Paistes are. Paistes are amazing. All right, here's another question from Lori Jones. Lori Jones said, question, never used 505s. What's the difference of the range of the 505s to the 2002s? That's a great question. The 505s, which came out in the 70s into the 80s, is the poor man's 2002. And for the most part, the lathing on the cymbals a little different. The hammering's a little different, but it's the same B8 blank. In some respects, the bells are closer to the Giant Beats, I think, on some of the cymbals, but not all of them. The rides are very close to the 2002 rides. I first came in contact with the 505s when I was a kid. I was in college. I cracked a 16-inch thin crash by Zildjian. I went into a drum shop in New York. My price range was limited. I played some Zildjians. They were a little more expensive. I played a Paiste 2002, and then there was this 505 right next to the 2002, and I said, these are close. And the guy said, yeah, these are really good cymbals, these 505s, and they're really reasonably priced. And I said, well, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. So I bought one, and then a bunch of my friends started buying them. So that's the way a lot of things happen for me. And I used that 16 for years. I had that 16 505 crash. I eventually bought my brother the 505 hi-hats that I have today. I bought him a 404 ride, 20-inch ride. And then we eventually bought him a Color Sound 5 black crash, and then those cymbals became mine at one point, and then I got rid of the 404 and the 505s. My friend Scott got the 505s back. I still don't know where the 404 ended up. The Color Sound I sold off with my 16-inch Paiste 505 crash, which I regret. It wasn't in bad shape, either of them, but they were just, I had moved to Sabian at that point. And it was kind of like, I'm not using these anymore, so I'm playing Sabian. I bought some more Sabians with that money, I think. And then in the 2010s, 2010s actually, I flipped back into buying Paiste again pretty heavily. I was dabbling with it in the 2000s. I bought a Paiste Mark I, Dark Energy Mark I ride prototype. And I bought some other Paiste prototypes, and I bought a set of Dimension hi-hats at Guitar Center. So I was starting to dabble with Paiste, but it's when I bought the 24-inch Giant Beat ride and the 505 20-inch crash that all of a sudden I was like, I really like this sound. And I had been playing dark cymbals for a long time, so I switched back to Paiste. Switched heartily to Paiste, and I would say Paiste are probably my favorite cymbals today. Which I think is another question I have coming up. Oh, here it is. Michael Brown asked me this question. He said, what are your favorite cymbals? I think I see a Zildjian China behind your head. Now, this was on the History of Concert Toms video that's got a lot of views on YouTube. And it wasn't a Zildjian China. It was a 2002 18-inch China that I had gotten from my friend Steve Dupree. I traded a 17-inch Zildjian thin crash from the 70s, and he gave me this 1984 Paiste 2002 China that he didn't use, which I use a lot. I like it. I like that China as much as my PSTX. This is a little bit more vibey, It's got a vibey thing, but I love that China, so I use both of them. So, but I would say Paiste, the cymbals I've been digging the most. I'm not selling off my Zildjians, and I have a set of Zildjians. And if you watched my church video, I'm talking about me playing at my church. You know I play my Zildjians in church because they're darker and they work better in the room. But I think in the recording studio, there's nothing like the cut of the Paiste cymbals. And I find I really enjoy the sound of them. And I've taken them out and played in big churches, but a little church or a small room, I would probably take my Zildjians out just because they're darker and they blend a little better with the room. It's easier. Now, some guys like that dark thing, and there is a place for that. And I've done covers with my Zildjians and my Sabians. But to be honest, my Sabians I played for years. I don't play them that often anymore. They just sit there, and one day I'll probably hand them to my grandkids, and unless I decide to sell them for some reason. And I'm pretty happy with my Paistes right now. So you see me playing mostly Paiste in here, and every once in a while I pull out the Zildjians for dramatic effect, and I got some really nice Zildjians too. So I'm extremely blessed. Thanks for that question, Michael. The next question comes from Vince Gomez. He said, in the past, you showed your interest in a Catalina club. What bass drum head would you use on it, and why? Okay. My favorite all-around bass drum head, just for simplicity's sake, and it never gets a bad sound, is any EMAD head. Double ply, single ply. I would probably, on a Catalina club, use a double ply EMAD. But you might be able to get away with a single ply EMAD. I don't know. Now, Remo has a package with a power ring like an EMAD, and I'm using that on my drums now in my Gretsch kit. So I don't know what that is called anymore. I did a whole video on it a year ago, but I don't remember what it's called, and I might buy that again. But that EMAD concept of the outer ring leaning against the head is very similar to dropping a zero ring on a snare drum. So I kind of dig it. This bass drum is a Power Sonic bass drum. I don't know if they make these anymore. My son-in-law met somebody who, in his job, whose father worked for Remo, and his father sent my son-in-law a whole bunch of heads. This is one of them. And my son-in-law has one kit. He knows, and he comes over here and records all the time. So one day he said, hey, I'm not using this bass drum head. Take it. And I took it and put it on here. It sounds great. Right now I've got a pillow in there, so it's not really doing its justice, but it really has a nice punch to it. It's got a little pillow attachment on the outside that leans against the outside of the head. Kind of cool concept. I like muffling on bass drum heads. But I will tell you, my Gretsch bass drum has now got an ambassador with that muffling system by Remo. So that muffling system allows you to use any head you want. So I'm a big proponent these days of thinner heads and using one plies. So I have all ambassadors on my Gretsch kit right now, and I've really been digging the different sound. Most guys play a lot of two-ply heads, and most guys are playing Evans these days that I see on YouTube, and I've been a Remo guy for a long time. I have used Evans, and I have a set of Evans heads on my other Gretsch drums, but, you know, it's a preference. Somebody wants to give me heads, I'll use Evans. Right now, the dollar for dollar, Remo's a little cheaper. Most of the places I can get heads. That's why I use them. So I promote Remo, except for bass drum heads. I will tell you that Evans EMAD is a great head. All right. Laurie Jones had another question. He said, I guess I was watching, this was on Michael W. Smith. He said, only ever one floor tom. So I don't know if that question meant, do you only use one floor tom? With these big, and I was using one of the bigger kits that day. I don't know what my configuration was. That was when I was experimenting with triggers. That's another story for you guys. Yesterday I came in my studio to do a cover, and my SPDSX wouldn't turn on. So I have a module to use with the triggers from this Alesis module that I got from my friend Matthew Jackson, CCM drummer. He gave me an electronic drum kit. So I bought all these triggers, and I did some covers over April with triggers on them, with these D-drum triggers. Remember, there's a D-drum trigger on this bass drum. Long and the short of it, I was planning on using it with my SPDSX because I was actually going to buy some longer cables to do it. I was getting ready to go full out on the SPDSX. and now the SPDSX won't turn on. So I don't know if it's the death of the SPDSX. I did check the power supply, and the power supply has power. So that's not really a promising sign to me. I've heard other guys say, yeah, you could have fried the motherboard. If I fried the motherboard, I don't see me buying an SPDSX again. So I had some fun with it the last month playing it. Was just getting into all that stuff, and now it's gone. So, but do I play 2 floor toms? Yes, I do, Lori. The couple Boston covers I've done recently have had 2 floor toms. I just did a cover today, a little feet cover that came out before I'm recording this show. I did it this morning, and then I recorded this show, and I released it before I came up here to do this show. So this is Saturday, May 7th, before Mother's Day, and I had 2 floor toms there. So I like playing 2 floor toms. I like playing the double concert tom thing here. I like that. I like playing the wraparound concert tom thing. I love this kit. This is so much fun to play for me. Playing different kits and different size kits is just fun, so that's what I do. All right. The next one comes from Mickey F. Mickey F. I have a couple Mickeys that follow me. Both of them follow very closely, too. Mickey F said, explain how you get a good, tasty bark as opposed to a sloppy one that touch on your funk grooves. This was Cut the Cake by Average White Band. All right. So we're going to try something here. How do I get a good bark? Let's see. Now, I've got 2 thin cymbals together. And I think I got the thinner of the thin on the bottom. So these are not the best hi-hats to get a good bark. I would say getting a good bark starts with a good set of hi-hats. So, how do I get a good bark? A lot of it has to do with hitting with this part of the stick, the shoulder of the stick, not the tip. But it's not a consistent thing because every once in a while I do tip shoulder. But most of the good hits come off the shoulder of the stick. So yeah, that's what I would say. The most thing is about playing right in this range to kind of dig in. But it's having a good set of hats, good heavy bottom, thinner top. I think on that particular Cut the Cake one, I think I was using Sound Edge hi-hats. So it was maybe the 2000s that day. I don't remember the video. That was a cool song. I can't get it in my head, but it had some really cool things. But I would say you're hitting in this area of the stick to get those really cool barks and get a clean bark. The other thing is, I would say the height of how high up your cymbals come from each other will also affect it. I don't have it too big. Like if you're one of these guys, it's like doing that kind of thing, where you've got like an inch between it. That's not going to get a good bark. That's not a good bark. So if I find that I have to go a lot, if I want a really tight funk thing, I'm going to change my clutch to more of a very small, or probably is a 1/4 of an inch. Too loud, I might. Anyhow, that's my bark thing. Thank you for asking the question, Mickey F. All right, the next one comes from Jonathan Lichtig, I think. That's how you say it. Lichtig, Lichtig. and he bought some fiberglass drums. And he said to me, he said, do you think I should varnish or shellac a clear coat to keep the shells from fraying? What do you think? Well, let me give you my opinion on that. If you're traveling with them a lot and they're not in cases, then you might need to do that. But if you're not traveling with them a lot, they don't go places. You're not stacking them inside each other. Do I have shellac on these drums? No. Do I have lacquer on them? No. Now, I was planning on painting these drums at one point. That has changed. I've decided not to do that. I'm not investing any money in these drums. And one day I will sell them probably, because I don't know if my grandkids want these drums. But if I sell them, I don't know how I'm going to sell them. I may sell them as set, or as I may sell them individually. Right now would be the time to sell, because concert toms are hot right now. Concert toms are the bomb to have some hanging around. I don't necessarily think anybody wants to spend $6,000 on concert toms, unless you got a DW endorsement maybe, where you're getting a good deal on it. But for the most part, guys want a couple concert toms. They want to be Taylor Hawkins right now. God rest your soul, Taylor Hawkins. You know, he was a great drummer. Love Foo Fighters. Love Taylor Hawkins' energy. My favorite thing about Taylor Hawkins was Alanis Morissette, believe it or not. When I saw him in Alanis Morissette, I just loved his drumming. Very much, he had like a Police vibe because he loved Stuart Copeland. He has a Queen vibe. He was a great drummer. We lost a great one. But I think a lot of guys now are looking for little concert toms to kind of add to their kit, to kind of be Taylor Hawkins-ish. But for the most part, there's other guys that want that vintage drum thing for their studio, so they want concert toms. During my concert tom video, that's pretty famous out there and got a lot of views, I pretty much said I was going to sell this concert tom kit, and I never sold it. I actually invested in rims mounts and made this kit what it is today, and I love playing it, and I love having it set up, and I love recording with it. I just did a session. I actually got a video coming out this month from a band called the Transient Friends. I did a drum track for their album. Their album's being released in, I think it's May 27th. Their album comes out on Spotify. And probably before it comes out or right after it comes out, I will actually show you a video about me doing the recording session for that tracking. And then maybe once I get the mastered track off of Spotify, I think I may put it with a video of me doing the track, which isn't going to be perfect sync, but because there's a couple spots I couldn't find the cuts. But for the most part, I think I got a good take of it, and I think I locked pretty good made it work for all the edits we did. We did a lot of edits on it. But then again, when you record, that's what you do. You do edits. So anyhow, it was pretty cool. But that's coming out too. It's another thing coming out. But would I shellac these or lacquer them? I wouldn't. If you want to, though, I would say do it, Jonathan. All right. Brian Drum said this to me. He said he liked my comment about the penalty box. And why did I put this in here? There's a reason I put this in here. He said, how do you feel about playing in the penalty box? I think he says, how do you feel about the penalty box in my... He was laughing as, yeah. He kind of got how I felt about the penalty box. The penalty box goes back to my playing in drums in church thing, where I call the drum booth the penalty box. We're isolated from drums. I actually don't really like playing in them, but they're a necessary evil in some churches. So, my friend Dave Jones, whose son is Zach Jones, who I talked about last time, Dave calls it the penalty box. So it's nothing original there. I stole that from Dave Jones. But then again, most of my good licks I stole from somebody too. So that's just the way life is. All right, one more. Oh, Mickey F had another question. All right, Mickey F's great job. I love the 16th notes on the hi-hat with the bass drum beat group. This was Mr. Kyrie. I get the rights wanting to stay the same, My foot always wants to play what the right hand is doing. Do you ever have a problem with it? If so, how do you fix it? Okay, I think we all have a problem with our right hand wanting to stay with our right foot. So I actually have a student. His name is Sean Woodley. And Sean is working on the Realistic Rock book. And there's an exercise in the Realistic Rock book which goes like this. It goes. So what the bass drum's doing is going against the right hand. It plays the E's and the U's. So while I was teaching this lesson to him last week, we were going over this part of it. I was doing something with the 16th note thing. And this is a good way to practice. I saw your question. I thought this is a good way to practice this, is to practice playing 16th note barks with your left hand doing the 16th note pattern. So first let's get the pattern going with that pattern. Hearing a squeak. I got a really bad squeak in here. Gonna have to fix that for my next cover. But that's the idea. So I was just showing them how you could take these things in the Realistic Rock book and kind of break them up. So you could do that with one hand. Let's see. All kinds of stuff, but playing against, that's a great pattern. It's Realistic Rock. I think it's number 7 and number 8 and number 9 and number 10. And by the way, I did a video on Realistic Rock, and this pattern is written out underneath as I'm showing. I did it for Sean and for my grandkids. It's called Lessons for My Grandkids, and for my grandson Asher, to help him start to get that pattern. But yeah, when you're doing that, I think there's a part in Kyrie. That's kind of an odd pattern against it, but it's really cool when you get it. So the way you work on it is you do things like that pattern, that number. You take that number 7 pattern and that number 8 pattern, and you play those offbeats. You're the one that making the noise? Sounds like you're making the noise. Anyhow, E's and U's. And you can practice it. I think it's one of the most useful patterns in that book. Once you learn that, you start throwing it in on other things, and you start breaking it up. You're playing funk. So it's getting you out of the, the other one is, the paradiddle one. That's very funky too. It's another one you can work on. But that's how I just sit here and work on that kind of stuff. That helps me to get it. Hope that helped you, Mickey. I got one more question, I believe. This is from Fred Kellogg. And Fred Kellogg says, what do you think about double bass drum pedals? Just asking because I've never tried one. I'm 65, by the way, and I look forward to your videos. You play excellent. Any input on double bass would be appreciated. Thank you, my friend. Okay. Here's my input on double bass. Number 1, the first time I played a double pedal, I borrowed it from a friend. So I would say to you, if you have a friend who's got a double pedal, borrow it first and see if you can goof around with it. Now, I did this when I was probably about 20, I don't know, 27, 28. I don't know. Must have been 27, 28. Yeah. No, maybe it was in my 30s. All I remember was I borrowed this pedal, this double pedal, and I brought it home and played it. And I felt like I was falling down a set of stairs. And I was really clumsy. It didn't make any sense to me. And I basically said, yeah, I don't think I really want this pedal. So I gave it back to him. Then I was in a band and we played at a wedding. And at this wedding, the drummer had a double pedal. And I was in this band and it was one of the band members' weddings. And I started goofing around with it on the gig and I was able to do those, you know, these kind of things. That's all I could do with it, you know. So I said, wow, that's cool. Maybe I should try this again. So I did. I picked up an old DW. Somebody was selling for really cheap. It was a real old DW too, with the two pedals that were kind of put together on a plate. I had that for years. The sprocket was worn out. I had to replace the sprocket. I used it for years, but it really was a crappy pedal, and I didn't use it for any more than I started doing like patterns with it, like Jim Keltner does, where you go. Those kind of things, where I was actually breaking it up using 2 feet instead of. Anyhow, all that to say is, I got good enough to play those kinds of things once in a while, but I am not a double bass player. I had a kid I was teaching who wanted to play double bass, and he wanted to play fast double bass. And he asked me, how would I approach it? Well, I showed him how to approach it, and he worked on it. He got faster. He was using syncopation and some stick control stuff and putting it on his foot, and it worked. I have no patience for that, to be honest. So this thing is an add-on pedal that I use once in a while. I have fun with it. I have a couple fills, that kind of stuff for ending fills. Nothing clean. You know, I can't even do that shuffle thing. I just saw Simon Phillips do a thing on Drumeo with the Space Boogie. I guess it's a Jeff Beck tune, but he was doing that. Simon Phillips is just a killer double bass player. Anyhow, long and the short of it, if you want to try it, but you find it very odd. The hardest thing is where you put your hi-hat. For me, sticking this pedal in here is hard. I like my hi-hat pedal a little bit more. I sit more with my foot out a little bit. So my hi-hat's usually about here. When I have the double pedal, I have to move it here. So my foot moves, so my legs are not, it's not seated. There's a great video on this. A guy named Billy Ward did a video about how he sets up, and I've been kind of following it. And believe it or not, the hardest thing about playing this big kit is putting this tom here, because it is a little awkward to go to it. But there's something so cool about playing these little toms that I sacrifice that aspect of my playing. Plus, I'm playing with the double pedal on this kit, so the hi-hat comes out a little bit, and I shift. I deal with it. But on that kit, I usually have my feet more like I'm sitting down on a chair, and it works. Anyhow, is it worth it? Sure. And are there some great ones? Yes. I like Iron Cobras. I have an Iron Cobra FlexiGlide, which has got the straps on it. That's what this pedal is. DW makes some great double pedals. You could probably, if you get a cheap enough one, buy one cheap from somewhere. You know, you don't have to buy the most expensive pedal to make it work, but get something that's decent, because if it's too cheap and it doesn't work, you're just going to be discouraged anyhow. Spring tension does matter. Setting it up does matter. So you have to mess with it to find your place. You're going to find your foot technique different on your left foot, a lot different. It may open you up a little bit in a different way. So I don't use it a lot, to be honest. I've had it for probably about 30 years now, and I really don't use it a lot. So, but that's it. Anyhow, that's Ask Earl Anything. Thank you for watching the show. Your questions make the show. Without your questions, I don't have a show. If I get more questions, maybe I'll try to do some more shows quicker. I'm starting to feel that maybe I need to talk more and do less playing, but who knows. Anyhow, thank you all for watching my videos, and if you made it to the end, you're cool. Please like and subscribe. Please like. No, I don't say that stuff. Anyhow, yes, I do say it. Please like and subscribe. See you soon. God bless. Have a great day.